Hi class, today I wanted to talk a bit about imaging for websites. When you use images on a website, you want to make sure that you have the smallest possible file size with the highest possible quality. So there's a little bit of a fine line of where that is, but we're going to talk about how to size your images for a website or for any kind of social media, blog, any kind of those pages. Okay. So you want people to be able to download your images quickly, even if they have a slow internet connection. But you also want them to look crisp and clean and really nice. So when you're talking about images, you have something that's called bit depth, and that refers to how many bits define the color value of a particular pixel. So a bit is a little piece of information that is either a 1 or a 0, and based on how complex the file is, you're going to have more bits, which then turn into bytes, which then turn into megabytes or gigabytes or whatever. Okay. So a bit would be like a little pixel in your image and what its color value is. Okay. So 1 bit has 2 states or colors. So it's going to be like black or white. 8-bit depth images have 256 possible colors, and 24-bit depth images allow 16,777,216 possible colors. So obviously the deeper the bit depth, the more colors you're going to have access to. So if you're a photographer and you want to have really detailed colored images, you want to use the JPEG format for those, and you want to use 24-bit color so that you have the maximum range of possible colors. So for example, this document here is in Photoshop, okay? So when I open it in my actual image is 19 megabytes, which is way, way, way too big to go on the web. You want to keep most of your images around 1 megabyte or maybe 3 at the most, okay? So that people can download them very quickly. If I go into Photoshop and open up my image, this is directly from my camera without any editing, okay? It has not been resized or cropped or anything like that. So if I go up to the image menu and I go to image size, then I can look at how big it is. The file size, the dimensions, the resolution, and all of those things. So the original size of this image is 6,000 pixels by 4799 pixels, and the image size is actually 82.4 megabytes, which is a huge file. So I could actually print this like as a poster and blow it up on my wall like really big, and it would look good. Okay, so this is not something that you would want to put on your website. This is way too large. When you're talking about formatting for web, you want to use a resolution of 72 pixels per inch. So if I change my resolution to 72 pixels per inch and I have the resample box checked, look at what it takes my file size down to. It went from 82 megabytes to 4. 4 is still a lot. 4 is still way too big for a website. So I'm going to even go further than that. So I changed my resolution to 72. Then I'm going to change my width and height respectively. So I'm going to change that to pixels, just so I can get a good idea. So for a website, a good width for like a large image would be around 800 pixels. And if you have this little chain clicked, it's going to scale the height accordingly, okay? So let's just say I changed it to 72 and then I want my width of my image to be 800 pixels, which is almost the width of a screen, okay? That's going to take my image size down to 1.4 megabytes. So we're getting better, but we really want to try and keep it under 1 megabyte if we can for web. So let's say we want it on our website, but we only want the width to be 400 pixels. We want it to be a medium-sized image. That's what's going to take it down to the size that you want. Okay, so this is 375 kilobytes, and it was 84 megabytes, or 82.4 megabytes. Okay, so this is what you would want to do in Photoshop if you were saving images specifically for your website. Okay. Obviously, you would want to save the original somewhere else on your computer so that you don't lose that quality, because you may want to go back someday and print a poster of that particular image, in which case, if you cut it down, you're not going to have enough pixel data to be able to blow it up big again, okay? So if you do this in Photoshop and you click OK, it will take a little second to resize, and you can zoom in on it to see we lost some quality, but we're saving a lot on file size. Okay, so then you're gonna go up to File and Save As. Make sure you do Save As so you don't save over what was already there. So I'm gonna call this one small at the end, and we're going to save it as a copy. Okay, so from here you have some options as well. If you're saving a JPEG, you can choose to have a quality of JPEG as well. I would go ahead and just keep that maximum, because even at maximum it's only 188 kilobytes. Okay, so that's not huge. So let me show you where this is, and you can see that cami.jpg is 19.3 megabytes and cami small is 185 kilobytes. So you would want to use the smaller one, which is optimized for web. Okay. Also, Photoshop has a feature. I'm going to undo this so I can go back to the original and show you another feature. Okay, so this is my original. This is the huge one. I'm going to go to File, Export, and Save for Web. And this is specifically to save images for websites. And that's built into Photoshop, so that's really nice to have that feature. So this feature allows you to choose GIF as a format with different amounts of color or transparency. It allows you to choose JPEG, PNG 8, or PNG 24, and I don't ever use that one. So JPEG would be what we want to select on this particular image because it's a photograph. Okay. You can choose the quality of it. I would put that probably up around 80 or even 100. And then you can choose your size down here. So 6,000 is way too big for a screen. So I would go somewhere around 800 pixels wide. And when you do that, it tells you over here what your file size will be at the end. So 284 kilobytes. And then you can save that somewhere else in a folder that's made for your website, like your root folder or your images folder. And that's a really fast way to export files for the web or images for the web. If you were doing a logo or something like that, I would suggest using the GIF format, which supports transparency. So that means that you don't have to have like a white background behind your logo. You can have a transparent background, and that will show through whatever the background color is, or you can stack things on top of it or behind it and it will show through. So there's some instances where you wouldn't want to use JPEG, but if you're a photographer and you're trying to showcase your photographs, I would stick with JPEG. I would stick with the higher quality, and I wouldn't go above 800 as your width. Okay? I think that's about it. If you are creating a logo, I would recommend building it in Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, and that way you have a scalable file because Illustrator works with vector graphics rather than pixels. So if you're wanting a logo that doesn't pixelate, you would want to create it in Illustrator and then export it as a PNG or a GIF. Okay? So that's basically it with imaging for web. You just need to keep things small in size. Same thing with video. When you're exporting video for web, you want it to be the smallest file size possible with the best possible quality. And so it's kind of up to you where that line is, but you definitely don't want your files to get too large or people won't be able to download them to watch on their computers.